I saw your video, Sophie. Margaret's voice was calm, almost too calm, as she poured coffee into Sophie's favorite mug, the one with the gold rim and tiny roses that no one else was allowed to touch. The sound of the liquid filling the cup was the only noise in the kitchen. Outside, the wind brushed against the window panes, rattling them gently like a warning. Sophie froze mid-scroll on her phone. "What video?" she asked, eyes flicking up, pretending confusion. "The one where you tell the world your mother-in-law doesn't do anything anymore," Margaret said, setting the pot down. "The one where you call it my duty to clean the house and raise your children." A flicker of red crossed Sophie's cheeks. "Oh, that?" She laughed, short, sharp, fake. It was a joke. Everyone online knew that. Margaret's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. 87,000 people laughed at it. That's quite an audience for a joke. Footsteps came down the stairs. David entered, rubbing his eyes, still in the pajamas Margaret had given him last Christmas. He looked at his mother, then at his wife. "What's going on?" "Your mom's upset about a silly TikTok," Sophie said quickly, slipping her arm through his. "It wasn't serious, babe. People loved it. It's just content." Margaret slid her phone across the table. "Watch." David hesitated, then pressed play. The video began with Sophie's bright smile and a cheery tune in the background. "You want to know the best thing about having a mother-in-law?" she said on screen, her tone playful, teasing. The camera panned to Margaret, standing in the kitchen, back turned, wearing her old blue apron as she scrubbed the sink. "I don't have to lift a finger," Sophie's voice continued. "She does it all. Cleaning, cooking, babysitting, you name it. It's her duty. She's retired, so what else does she have to do?" Laughter. Then applause emojis flooding the comments. When the video ended, David's face was unreadable. He looked from the screen to his mother. "Mom," he started slowly, "you know Sophie didn't mean it like that. It's just how things are now, everyone jokes online." Margaret smiled again, but this time it was a smile that chilled the air. "I understand," she said. "Jokes are funny when both people are laughing." Neither spoke. Sophie shifted uncomfortably, sipping her coffee as if to end the conversation. But Margaret simply turned away, her voice calm and steady. "You two should enjoy breakfast. It's the last one I'll be cooking for a while." Sophie frowned. "What do you mean?" Margaret didn't answer. She took off her apron, folded it neatly, and placed it on the counter. Her movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. That afternoon, while Sophie filmed another video upstairs, Margaret walked into the study and opened a drawer. She took out a single envelope, the one that had held the house deed since 1993, her name written clearly at the top, Margaret L. Hayes. She placed it on the dining table, right next to Sophie's designer handbag. When Sophie came down later, she found the envelope open and a small note beside it. "This house was built with my hands. It won't be the set for your jokes." By the time David got home from work, the locks had been changed. Margaret was sitting in her armchair by the window, sipping cinnamon coffee, the scent drifting softly through the house. For the first time in years, the home was silent, peaceful, even. She had raised her son, built these walls, tended every corner with her hands, and now, finally, she was taking them back. Outside, the evening sun dipped low, spilling gold light over the lemon tree she had planted when David was 5. The fruit hung heavy, ripe, ready, like something that had endured storms and still refused to break. Margaret smiled to herself. Let them learn, she thought. Some lessons don't need to be taught twice. Mom, I think you're overreacting. The words hit me like a bucket of ice water down my back. Overreacting. My voice barely came out. It's just that, David scratched the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. It's just a video. Sophie's friend Jasmine has a big following. That's the kind of content they make. It's not personal. Not personal. My voice trembled, rising despite me trying to hold it back. She filmed me without my permission. She turned me into a punchline for strangers online. Sophie crossed her arms, no longer pretending to be sorry. Margaret, you told me yourself that you love spending time with the kids, that it's the best part of your life. I was just repeating your words. It was true, I had said that once, on a quiet morning when Lily's laughter filled the kitchen and Ben was tugging at my sleeve. But I hadn't said it to be used or mocked. Besides, Sophie added, her tone sharpening, we all live here together. We all contribute. We pay the bills, the groceries, you help with the house. It's fair. I felt my chest tighten until I could hardly breathe. You pay the utilities. I asked slowly. The food? Well, yeah, David said as if it were obvious. The electric, water, gas, all that comes out of my paycheck. I sat down before my legs gave out. David, I said quietly, meeting his eyes, do you know whose name is on the deed to this house? He frowned. I don't know. Dad's? Or both of yours? No, I said, my voice steady now. Just mine. I bought this house in 1993. Every brick, every nail, every dollar came from me. Your father never lived to see it finished. I built it. I planted the yard where your kids play. And for 5 years, you've lived here without paying a dime in rent. The utilities you're so proud to cover are for my home. The food you buy is cooked on my stove. Silence filled the room. All I've ever asked for, I continued, is respect. Mom, calm down, David muttered, and those 2 words, snapped something inside me. Calm down. I said, standing up. After she humiliated me. After thousands of people called me a parasite, a burden, a useless old woman, while you 2 laughed. David's face went pale. You heard us. I did. Yesterday afternoon. You said, she's old now. What else can she do? He looked away. But Sophie didn't. She met my gaze, her expression ice cold. If it bothers you so much, she said, her voice like glass breaking. I'll delete the video. Happy? It's not about the video, I said. It's about respect, about the dignity I deserve in my own home. Nobody disrespected you, Sophie shot back, her voice rising. You're turning this into a drama. Everyone posts family content online. You should be grateful I included you. Other influencers make people pay to appear in their videos. I looked at my son one last time, hoping, just hoping, he'd defend me. But all he said was, "Mom, you're both overreacting. Sophie, delete it. Mom, forgive her. Let's move on." That was the moment I knew. My son would rather choose peace over truth. Comfort over courage. You're right, I said quietly. I don't want fights either. I went upstairs, locked my door, and cried, not out of sadness, but fury. Because in my own home, the one I built with my blood and hands, I had become invisible. But rage has a way of sharpening the mind. By morning, my tears had dried. And I began to plan. For 3 days, I acted as if nothing had happened. I cooked, I smiled, I tucked the kids into bed. But I was watching now, every word, every look, every secret. On Tuesday, while cleaning their room, I found a dinner receipt, 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, $152. The date, last Wednesday. The night Sophie told me she was running errands. I said nothing. I just folded it and slipped it into my pocket. Then came Wednesday night. The house was dark. Everyone asleep, or so I thought. I went downstairs for some lemon water when I heard Sophie's voice out back. She was on the phone. "No, Mom, not yet," she whispered. "The old lady's tougher than we thought. But once she's gone, the house is ours. Automatically. David's the only heir. What's his is mine." My stomach dropped. "I talked to the lawyer," Sophie continued. "Since we've lived here 5 years, we can even claim we've contributed to maintenance. It's worth at least $450. Once she dies, we sell and move. She's old, what, 10 years left?" She laughed softly. "David doesn't know," she said. "He's too sentimental. Starts crying every time I mention his sainted mother. So let's keep it quiet. The old lady still cooks, still cleans, she's harmless." I covered my mouth to stop the sound that tried to escape me. Then came the final blow. Even if she makes a will, forced inheritance laws protect David's share. Either way, we win. The click of her lighter. A pause. "Relax, Mom. She's not gonna do anything. She doesn't have the guts." That's when I realized, I had pressed record. My phone had captured every single word. 8 minutes, 43 seconds. Enough to destroy her little empire of lies. The next morning, I smiled as I poured her coffee. "Morning, dear," I said sweetly. She smiled back, smug, confident, utterly unaware. At 10 sharp, when she left for her gym class, I grabbed my purse, my phone, and called a cab. I told the driver to take me to my oldest friend's condo, Clara Anderson, retired attorney, sharp as ever. She buzzed me in, took one look at my face, and said, "Margaret Hayes, this isn't a social visit." I told her everything. Every detail. Every betrayal. And then I played the recording. Clara's jaw tightened. "That woman's got a rattlesnake for a soul," she said. "You're lucky you caught it in time." "What do I do, Clara?" "First," she said, pushing her glasses up, "we make sure this house stays yours. Then we make sure they learn to never underestimate you again." She called her nephew, Andrew Collins, a family and estate attorney. A good man, someone I'd helped through college after his father passed. When he picked up, his voice was warm. "Aunt Margaret? You okay?" "I've got a situation," I said. "I'll be there in an hour," he replied. "Don't sign or say a word to anyone until then." And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: calm. Because Sophie Hayes was right about one thing: women of my generation don't usually fight back. Unless we decide it's time. We spent the next half hour drinking coffee and planning. Clara, sharp as ever even after retirement, laid everything out on the table. "You have options, Margaret," she said, adjusting her reading glasses. "You can write a will, create a trust, or divide your property however you wish. This is still your house, your name, your right. You could leave it to David, to Lily and Ben, to a charity, or even to me if you wanted to drive everyone crazy." I smiled weakly. "I don't want to disinherit my son. He's not evil. He's blind to her." Clara nodded. "Then don't punish him. Protect yourself from her. You can set conditions in a trust. You can even design it so he inherits only if certain things happen. You stay safe while you're alive, and when you're gone, your wishes still stand. She can't touch it." "And the video?" I asked. "Can I do anything about that?" Clara frowned, twisting her mouth the way she always did when the law got murky. "Legally, it's tricky. You never consented to appear, but since it was filmed inside your own home, and she lives there, it falls into a gray area. You could file a takedown notice for unauthorized use of your image, but it would take time." "I don't want time. I want justice." "Then hit her where it hurts: money and pride. You take away the house, you take away her throne." That's why Clara had been the best real estate attorney in the county. She always knew how to strike without noise. There was a knock on the door. "That'll be Andrew," she said. Through the peephole, I saw him, tall, neatly dressed in a dark gray suit, carrying a leather briefcase. When he stepped inside, his smile softened the tension in the room. "Aunt Margaret," he said warmly, hugging me. It was the kind of hug that reminded me I wasn't alone in this fight. We sat around Clara's coffee table. Andrew opened his notepad and clicked his pen. "Tell me everything." So I did. I recounted every insult, every plan Sophie had whispered, every laugh that had burned me. When I finished, I played him the audio I'd recorded. He leaned back, silent for a moment, then said, "She's not just manipulative. She's calculated. And she's technically right about the inheritance laws, but morally, she's poison. Can I stop her?" I asked. "You can do more than that," he said, opening his briefcase. "Here's what we'll do. Option 1, a traditional will. You decide who gets what, under clear terms. Option 2, a living trust. That's what I recommend." "Why?" "Because it keeps everything in your name. You're the grantor and the lifetime beneficiary. The house is yours, completely, while you live. No one can sell it, borrow against it, or claim it. When you pass, it transfers under whatever terms you set. Sophie couldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, even if she stayed married to David." I exhaled, the first real breath I'd taken in days. "How long will it take?" "If we start today, 1 week. Bring your house deed, your ID, and come with me to my office on Tuesday morning." "Good. Because I want them out of my house." Clara raised an eyebrow. "You're evicting them?" "I don't know what to call it," I said. "But I don't want to keep living with someone who's waiting for me to die so she can take what's mine." Andrew hesitated. "You can, legally. They're not tenants. They've been living there under your goodwill. You can withdraw that goodwill at any time." "But, Margaret," he paused, his voice softening. "David's your son. Once you do this, there's no going back." I looked at him squarely. The family broke the moment they laughed at me. "I'm just cleaning up the ashes." Clara squeezed my hand. "Then we do this right." Andrew nodded. "Tuesday morning. We'll handle it legally, quietly, and permanently." 2 hours later, I left with a clear plan. On Tuesday, I'd sign the trust. On Wednesday, we'd document everything that belonged to me in the house. And on Saturday, while they were gone, we'd execute the plan. When I got home, Sophie was sprawled on the couch, painting her nails, watching some show on her phone. She didn't even look up. "Did you remember to pick up vegetables?" she asked, her tone dismissive. "I forgot," I said, lying. "I'll go tomorrow." "Oh, mother-in-law," she said mockingly. "You're getting forgetful. Guess we'll just order pizza." I smiled, watching her settle deeper into my armchair. "Yes, dear. Order pizza." Upstairs, I locked the documents from Andrew in my drawer and made one last call. "Marcia," I said when she picked up. "Cousin Margaret. It's been forever." "What's up?" "I need a favor, and it involves social media." Marcia, my second cousin, was 50 and had 200,000 followers on TikTok. She was famous for her cooking videos and sharp humor. If anyone could outwit Sophie online, it was her. When I finished explaining, Marcia let out a whistle. "Oh, cousin, she messed with the wrong woman. When you're ready, I'll make sure the whole country hears your side." "Thank you, Marcia," I said. Soon. Everything was ready. The board was set, the queen in position. The weekend brought unexpected luck. On Friday evening, Sophie came into the kitchen, all smiles. "Guess what, Mom? We won a weekend getaway, Grand Cypress Resort. Everything paid for. We leave tomorrow morning and come back late Monday." "That's wonderful," I said. "You both deserve it." David came in with a suitcase. "You sure you'll be okay for a few days, Mom?" "I'm 68, not 88, I said with a laugh. "I think I'll manage." "What about the kids?" Sophie asked. "They're staying with me," I said calmly. "Unless you're planning to take them to a couple's spa." The kids burst into the kitchen, eyes bright. "We want to stay with Grandma," they shouted. Sophie's smile flickered. David looked relieved. They left at sunrise. I waved from the porch until the car disappeared down the street. The moment it did, I took out my phone. "Andrew, they're gone." "Perfect. I'll be there in half an hour, with help." By the time he arrived, I'd given the kids breakfast and set them up in the living room with cartoons, cookies, and juice. Andrew pulled up with a small moving truck and two men in blue overalls. "This is Joe and Raymond," he said. "They're trustworthy." The men tipped their caps. "Good morning, ma'am. Where do we start?" "The master bedroom," I said. For the next 3 hours, we worked like clockwork. Everything that belonged to Sophie and David came out: furniture, clothes, electronics, even her expensive vanity mirror. Andrew photographed every item before it was packed into the truck. When we finished, the room looked the way it had 15 years ago. Empty, quiet, mine. The men moved through the house, living room, kitchen, bathroom, removing every trace of Sophie's taste and arrogance. My navy blue armchair went back to its rightful place. My floral plates returned to the cabinet. By noon, the house had its soul back. "Where to, ma'am?" Joe asked. "Maple Street storage unit," Andrew said, handing him the key. "Already rented and prepaid." Once they left, Andrew took out his toolbox and changed the locks. He handed me 3 new gold keys. "It's legal," he said. "You own the house outright." They were guests, not tenants. I nodded, slipping the keys into my pocket. The house felt lighter, free of the weight it had carried. I cleaned, rearranged, and restored every corner. That night, I cooked dinner for Lily and Ben. We ate under the lemon tree, the same one Robert had planted before he passed. "Grandma, why did people take all that stuff out?" Lily asked quietly. "Sometimes, sweetheart," I said, "you have to take out what doesn't belong anymore to make space for peace." She nodded, though she didn't really understand. Sunday passed in calm silence. And on Monday, at 4:30 p.m., I heard the sound of tires on gravel. They were back. I sat in my navy blue armchair, a pot of coffee ready. The kids were outside. A key turned in the lock and stopped. "What's wrong?" David asked, confused. "It won't open," Sophie said, rattling the knob harder. I sipped my coffee and waited, the faintest smile touching my lips. Some doors don't open anymore, for a reason. I stood up from my armchair and smoothed my beige dress, the one with small embroidered flowers I always wore on days that mattered. The air in the house was still. From the other side of the door, I could hear the sound of keys scraping and frustrated whispers. When I opened it, David stood there, a key in his hand, sweat on his forehead. Sophie was right behind him, her designer bag over her shoulder, her expression tight. "Mom, thank God you're here," David said. "The lock is jammed. We can't." "It's not jammed," I interrupted quietly. "I changed it." The words hung in the air like smoke. For a moment, neither of them moved. "What do you mean, you changed it?" Sophie asked with a forced laugh. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's my house," I said evenly. "And I decided it was time." David blinked in disbelief. "Mom, what's going on?" "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "But leave your suitcases outside." Sophie hesitated. "It's 90 degrees out here." "Leave them," I repeated. My voice left no room for argument. Something in my tone made them obey. The luggage stayed on the porch. When they stepped inside, Sophie froze. Her gaze darted around the living room, her perfectly manicured hand covering her mouth. "Where's my furniture?" she gasped. "Where's the sectional? The TV? My mirror?" David looked around, lost. "Mom, what happened here?" "Everything you brought into this house is in a storage unit on Maplewood Avenue," I said, sitting back in my armchair. Nothing was thrown away. Everything was documented and photographed. Sophie's jaw tightened. Without another word, she ran upstairs. I heard her voice echo through the house. "David." She took everything. My clothes, my shoes, my vanity, everything. When she came back down, her face was red with anger, her breath short. "You can't do this," she shouted. "This is theft. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," I said, unbothered. "I have the deed, the inventory, and witnesses. I removed nothing that wasn't yours." "We live here," she protested. "No," I said firmly. "You stay here. And that's different." David stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Mom, please, just tell us what's happening." "Sit down," I said quietly. "Both of you." Sophie glared at me but didn't move. I took my phone from my pocket. "Before this goes any further, there's something you need to hear." She rolled her eyes. "I'm not." I pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Clear, cruel, unmistakable. "No, not yet. She's stubborn, but once she's gone, the house automatically goes to David. The lawyer said 5 years of residence gives us possession rights. This place is worth at least $450,000. David's face drained of color. "David doesn't know anything. You know how sentimental he is about his dear old mother." The recording ended. The silence that followed was absolute. Sophie's lips trembled. That's out of context. It was just a joke, I said. You planned this. You waited for me to die so you could take what I worked my whole life for. David covered his face with his hands. You said it was just a conversation about wills. Sophie turned to him, desperate. I was trying to protect us. For the kids. Stop, he said sharply. Don't twist this. Just then, a knock came at the door. That'll be my attorney, I said. Andrew walked in, crisp in a navy suit, carrying his briefcase. Good afternoon, he greeted calmly. I'm Andrew Collins, legal counsel for Mrs. Hayes. He placed several documents on the table. First, this is a copy of the irrevocable living trust executed last week. The property is now under that trust. Mrs. Hayes is the grantor and lifetime beneficiary. That means no one can sell, claim, or inherit it while she's alive. He handed copies to both of them. Second, he continued, this is the complete inventory of what was removed. Only your belongings were relocated. And third, he handed Sophie a small envelope. Here's the key to your storage unit. You have 30 days to collect your items. Sophie's hands shook. You can't just. She can, Andrew said, unflinching. She owns the property outright. I stood. You're not being kicked out. But things will change. David's eyes filled with tears. What do you want us to do? First, I said, you'll pay rent. $1,500 a month. Second, everyone helps maintain this house. Third, respect, no gossip, no mockery, no hidden cameras. Fourth, Sophie, you'll delete that video and post a public apology. And if I don't? She asked bitterly. Then you leave, I said. Alone. David buried his face in his hands. Sophie's bravado vanished. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Whether she meant it or not, I didn't care anymore. I had my house back. My dignity. My son. Andrew nodded once, quietly excused himself, and left us in silence. Sophie spoke again, but her voice was hollow now. We're family, Margaret. Families don't turn on each other. Families don't steal, I said. Families don't humiliate. David stood abruptly. I need air. He stepped into the backyard, shoulders heavy. Sophie tried to follow, but I stopped her. Let him go. For once, let him think for himself. She froze, eyes red. What do you want from me? To ruin me? No, I said softly. I want you to learn what honesty costs. She sank to the floor, clutching the papers. I don't know how to fix this. You start by facing what you did, I said. I welcomed you like a daughter. I believed you loved my son. But you didn't love him. You loved what he could give you. She shook her head weakly, tears streaking her face. When you posted that video, I continued, you didn't just humiliate me, you erased me. You made people laugh at an old woman you called a burden. It was just a video, she whispered. It was my dignity, I said, my voice rising. Do you know how many years I worked for this home? How many times I sacrificed meals, sleep, and pride? I built this with my own hands, and you thought you could take it because you found a loophole. When David returned, his eyes were red but clear. He looked at her, then at me. Mom, he said quietly, we'll follow your rules. All of them. But there's more you need to know. He took a breath. Sophie and I are separating. David, I started. He shook his head. This isn't your fault. It's ours. I thought we were a team. But today, I realized she's been lying, to you and to me. Sophie reached for him. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I don't know if we can, he said softly. Not after this. He looked at me again. Mom, I'm sorry. For everything. For being blind, for not protecting you, for letting her make you small in your own house. I touched his shoulder. You don't need to apologize. Just live differently now. He nodded. The kids will stay here. I'll pay rent. I'll help. And I'll be the son I should have been all along. Sophie didn't argue. She simply asked, when do you want me to go? Tomorrow, I said. You can use the guest room tonight. She nodded. No more pride, no more defiance. Just exhaustion. Before she went upstairs, David said quietly, delete the video. She took out her phone, opened her TikTok, and deleted the post with trembling fingers. Then she looked at me. The apology. Tomorrow, I said. By noon. The next morning, the house felt different. Lighter. I brewed coffee and opened the curtains. Sunlight touched the floor in a way it hadn't in years. Sophie came downstairs late, her eyes swollen. She sat silently at the table, staring at her phone. It's almost noon, I said. She looked up, then walked to the front yard with her tripod. I watched through the window as she adjusted the angle, wiped her face, and began to speak. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the tears. The broken voice. The gestures. The truth that finally cost her something. When she came back inside, she showed me the video. And for the first time, her eyes didn't look like a performance. They looked human. I nodded once. Good, I said. And that was enough. When she said, before I upload it, I want you to see it first, I wasn't sure what to expect. Sophie sat across from me, her hands shaking as she held out her phone. I pressed play. There she was, no makeup, no filters, just her, raw and trembling. Hi, everyone, she began. Her voice cracked. A few weeks ago, I posted a video mocking my mother-in-law. I called her names. I made her sound like a burden. That video wasn't just mean, it was cruel. And it was wrong. She paused, swallowing hard. This woman built the home I live in with her own hands. She raised my husband alone after losing everything. And when I married him, she welcomed me into her home without hesitation. She gave me love, food, and a roof. And how did I repay her? With arrogance. With disrespect. Her tears came freely now. She never owed me anything. Every meal she cooked, every favor she did, that was kindness, not duty. And I treated her like a maid. I treated her like she didn't matter. But she does. She matters more than I ever admitted. Sophie took a deep breath. I'm making this video to apologize, not just to her, but to every mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother who has ever been made to feel invisible. You are not invisible. You are the foundation we all stand on. I'm sorry for forgetting that. The video ended. The room went quiet. Sophie looked up at me, voice small. Is it enough? It's not perfect, I said honestly. But it's real. Upload it. Her fingers trembled as she hit post. Done, she whispered. David, my son, leaned in the doorway, watching. Good, he said. Now, pack your things. I'll help you find an apartment. She nodded without argument. Within an hour, the house was silent again. But my phone wasn't. It buzzed with messages from my cousin, Marcia. Maggie, have you seen it? It's everywhere. Sophie's video is going viral. Your name is all over the comments. When I finally opened TikTok, I couldn't believe it. Tens of thousands of views within hours. The comments poured in. At least she owned up to it. This is rare, respect to her. But the damage is done. Influencers love drama when the camera's on. By evening, the video had hit 100,000 views. Then Marcia called again. People want the full story, Maggie. They need to hear your side. Let me tell it, respectfully. I hesitated. I wasn't one for public attention. But then I thought about all the women who'd been made small in their own homes. Tell it, I said. But tell it with dignity. Marcia did just that. In her cozy kitchen, apron tied tight, she began her video. Hi everyone. I want to tell you a true story about a woman I deeply admire, my cousin, Margaret Hayes. She's a widow who built her home from scratch, who raised her son alone, and who opened her doors to his family out of love. But when that love was repaid with betrayal, she stood her ground with grace and dignity. She didn't use names. She didn't dramatize. She spoke from the heart. Her video exploded, 1 million views in 6 hours. The comments were an ocean of emotion. This is my mother's story. My grandma went through the same thing. Finally, someone speaking truth for women who never get credit. Soon, others began sharing their own stories, of mothers, grandmothers, and wives reclaiming respect. #RespectYourMother-in-law started trending. So did #DignityAfter60. My story, which I never wanted to tell, had become a movement. 3 days later, a reporter called. "Mrs. Hayes, we'd like to feature you on our morning show. You don't have to show your face, but your message has touched thousands. Would you consider it?" I thought long and hard. Then I said yes. The interview was filmed in my living room. I sat in my navy armchair, my back to the camera, voice unaltered. "I want every woman to know," I said, "your worth isn't measured by what you do for others, but by who you are. Kindness doesn't mean silence. Love doesn't mean surrender. And it's never too late to stand up for yourself." When the interview aired, it reached millions. My phone overflowed with messages. Old friends. Neighbors. Strangers. But one stood out. "Mrs. Hayes, my name is Patricia. I'm 71. I've lived with my son and daughter-in-law for years. They treat me like a servant. After hearing your story, I talked to a lawyer. I'm taking my home back. You gave me courage." I kept that message close. It made me realize this wasn't just my fight. It was our fight, for every woman who'd been dismissed, silenced, or forgotten. Meanwhile, Sophie found a small apartment. She took the essentials. The kids, Lily and Ben, visited her on weekends. David and she started therapy. Whether they'd make it, I didn't know. But that wasn't my battle anymore. 2 months passed. Our house found a new rhythm, fair, peaceful, honest. David and I shared chores, cooked together, and taught the kids to value hard work. The whiteboard in the kitchen kept us all accountable. Every first of the month, David handed me an envelope with $1,500. "Mom, I should give more," he'd say. "No," I told him. "This isn't about money. It's about respect." The children flourished. Lily loved baking with me. One afternoon, she asked, "Grandma, why doesn't Mommy live here anymore?" I kneeled beside her. "Because sometimes adults make mistakes, sweetheart. Big ones. And they need time to fix them. But your mom loves you very much." "Do you love us more now that Mommy's gone?" she asked softly. "No, baby," I said. "I just have more energy to show it." 3 months later, Sophie came by one Sunday. Instead of waiting in the car, she knocked on the door. "Mrs. Hayes," she said, voice trembling. "Can I talk to you?" We sat in the living room, me in my chair, her in a wooden one. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "For holding me accountable. For not letting me keep being that person. I've been in therapy. I'm learning who I was, and who I want to be." Her eyes filled. "You didn't deserve how I treated you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know I'm changing." When she started to leave, I stopped her. "Sit down." She froze. "I wasn't perfect either," I said. "I let things go for too long. I said yes when I should have said no. I thought love meant shrinking myself. It doesn't. It means standing tall, for yourself, and for the people who watch you. She nodded, crying quietly. Do you think you can ever forgive me? I don't know, I said truthfully. But I'm not angry anymore. That's enough for now. She hugged me, a brief, genuine hug, and left. As the door closed, I realized forgiveness wasn't about pretending nothing happened. It was about taking back the power pain once held over you. That evening, I sat under the lemon tree Robert and I planted decades ago. The air was cool, the branches heavy with fruit. My phone buzzed, another message from a stranger. Mrs. Hayes, I saw your interview. Today, I signed my house back into my name. Thank you for reminding me that it's never too late. I smiled. I saved her message with hundreds of others, stories of women finding courage through mine. That, I thought, was my true inheritance. Not this house, but the ripple of strength it created. David came outside and sat beside me. Mom, he said, you know what today is. I shook my head. It's been exactly 3 months since everything changed. Since you took back your house. Since, he smiled softly. Since I got my real mother back. He handed me an envelope, a legal document waiving any claim to the property. David. I need you to know, he said, that I'm here because you let me be. Not because I have any right. This home is yours. Tears filled my eyes. You'll always have a place here, son. That night, after the kids were asleep, I wrote in my notebook. True wealth isn't what you own, it's what you refuse to let others take from you. Never let them take your voice, your dignity, or your space in this world. Because once you reclaim those, peace becomes your greatest possession. For the first time in decades, I slept deeply. Because I finally understood, we are not old, or invisible, or used up. We are women made of iron and grace. We are the hands that built everything. We are the hearts that keep it all beating. And we will not be erased.